Previously on Cook Like Chris.
That's pretty good. And I don't know if you can see this, but it's nice and flaky on the outside and nice and soft still and puffy on the inside.
Today on Cook Like Chris.
Where have you been all my life? Hello and welcome back to Cook Like Chris with Chris Cook, the YouTube cooking show you deserve but not necessarily need. I'm your host, Chris. Still no Dear Jamie today. I really do want to do those, but fortunately, a random stranger on the internet actually sent in a request. And like, a real request, not a lame one like before. James. The request actually comes from Reddit, username Wushu7. They actually requested that I use the Yorkshire pudding recipe I made before and use that as a base for Toad in the Hole. They also suggested that I make a onion gravy to go with it because apparently that's what you're supposed to do. So there wasn't actually a specific recipe requested for this, so I did a bit of research, a bit of hunting online. Most of what I'm making today is from a video I found on YouTube by Marco Pierre White.
Toad in the Hole. Very simple, very quick, very delicious. The batter, 5 minutes. In a hot oven, 20 minutes. So dinner within less than half an hour.
I'll add all the links down below for that as well. But that's my base for the recipe. So without wasting any more time, let's check out our ingredients with totally fresh footage. With Yorkshire puddings, you're going to need 4 large eggs, 1.5 cups of milk, half teaspoon of salt, 1.25 cups of all-purpose flour, as well as about 4 tablespoons of vegetable oil. You're also going to need some sausages, and I kind of got the kind that you'd normally barbecue with, which is actually something that Marco recommends.
I always use Cumberland. Why? Because they're big, they're fat, and they're chunky, and they're juicy. If you use a chipolata, by the time the toad's cooked, the chipolata's dry. That's why you need a big sausage.
For the gravy, I'm just going to use a mix. So for that, I'll need 1 large yellow onion, which I've used my processor to chop up, some extra virgin olive oil, 2 teaspoons of sugar, 1 1/3 cup of warm water, and 1 gravy mix. Alright, that's our ingredients, but however, since the gravy will actually take a bit longer, or roughly about the same time, I'm going to start with the gravy first. First, we're going to coat the bottom of our pan with our olive oil and heat that up to a medium heat. Then we're going to add our onions and stir to make sure they get all coated with the oil. We'll also spread them out evenly and continue to stir occasionally. After about 10 minutes of cooking, we'll add our sugar. Now, when they're cooking, make sure you leave them long enough so they have a chance to brown, but to stir occasionally so that they don't all get stuck and burnt. We'll be doing that process for about 30 minutes. If you need to, you can also add little bits of water to help make sure the onions don't dry out. So it's only actually been like 8 more minutes after I've added in my sugar, and this is already looking pretty done. So I don't know, maybe it's because my heat was too high or the way my stove works, but it's looking pretty caramelized. And since I've got to make the gravy anyway, I think I'm just going to, start making the gravy now and not caramelize these for the full 30 minutes because they look and smell pretty done. I'm going to add our water that's needed for our mix, plus our mix packet, our gravy packet. We'll mix that all together, bring it up to a boil, then we'll reduce the heat and let it simmer for about 3 minutes. Now, while you're making the gravy, or more importantly, caramelizing the onions, you can actually start prepping the Yorkshire pudding portion of the meal. First up, we're going to mix all the ingredients we need for the Yorkshire pudding. So we'll just blend all those together. Now, I'm going to try something a little different. So when I made my Yorkshire pudding recipe before, I actually got a suggestion in the comments. And that was to actually don't let the batter rest in the fridge, just let it rest at room temperature. So we still need to make we're still going to let the batter rest for as long as we can, 30 minutes.
There's my batter, finished within 5 minutes. Very simple, very smooth, no lumps. What I like to do is park it to one side, leave it for 2-3 hours. The batter, 5 minutes. In a hot oven, 20 minutes. So dinner within less than half an hour. Leave it for 2-3 hours. So dinner within less than half an hour. Leave it for 2-3 hours. Leave it for 2-3 hours.
While it rests, we'll preheat our oven to 425 degrees. While the oven preheats and the batter rests, we're going to prepare our sausages. Those sausages, all we're going to do first is brown them up a bit. Marco in his video, he calls it sealing or browning. That's all we're going to do with the sausages at first. Once we have that seal, we're just going to move them off the heat. That's because they'll finish cooking in the oven with the Yorkshire pudding as part of the whole toad in the hole. The whole toad in the hole. Now that the oven is done preheating, we're going to put our sausages in the pan with the oil and then let that pan heat up really hot, just like you would normally do with a Yorkshire pudding.
To put cold sausages into your tray, pour on the batter, it just doesn't work. Get the heat back into that tray.
Okay, our tray is now real hot, so time for the fun part. You want to try and do this nice and quick, and of course, just like regular Yorkshire pudding, you're going to add your batter directly into the pan. So pour your batter in, close the oven, and it should maybe 20 minutes to make. Usually this recipe takes me longer than that, but now that my batter is starting at room temperature, it might only take 20 minutes. Okay, moment of truth time. So these are actually been in for 26 minutes.
20 minutes, we have dinner.
I don't know why, I guess it's just the way my oven works. So maybe don't believe that 20-minute mark. Keep an eye on it and make sure yours doesn't cook or burn. So let's pull this toad in the hole out of the oven and see what it looks like. Whoa, ooh, my gosh. Either I've done something awesome or horrible. It looks great, like a giant Yorkshire pudding with sausages in it, that's what it is. I'm really excited to try it out. So according to Marco,
The secret of serving toad in the hole perfect is as soon as it's cooked, serve it. Don't let it sit around, otherwise it'll collapse.
and that only leaves us with one more thing to do, and that's to cut off a slice, pour on some gravy, and give it a taste. As you can see, here's our sausage, puffy on the outside, kind of looks like a pizza. Pretty yummy looking, so time to test it out. Sausage here, Yorkie here, gravy, bottoms up. I'd say that's pretty good. That's pretty delish. Can't believe I've never had this before. It's also really simple to make. Basically, if you are making the gravy at the same time, it's like 30 minutes, maybe 40, and it has everything you need, and it's quite tasty. Where have you been all my life? So I actually totally forgot to talk about the gravy. It was all right. Yeah, edible. You know, I guess not everything can be a home run. Thanks again for joining me on Cook Like Chris with Chris Cook. I'm delightfully surprised how my toad in the hole turned out. Took a little longer than expected, but I kind of knew that going in based on how my stove works. Big thank you to Reddit user Yushu7 for the request. Also thank you to Suzanne, who gave me a tip on how to make my Yorkshire puddings a bit puffier. If you find a recipe online that you would like me to tackle here on Cook Like Chris, please leave that in the comment down below. We're always looking out for things to try. As always, help the channel grow and like and subscribe. So until next time, see you later.